Okay, so welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is, of course, one and only Sugi JRPG here, coming back from a bit of a hiatus. It's been like 4 months since my last review, but I'm here now, and I also am working on a couple of other reviews, so soon as I finish those games, those reviews are gonna be up, so expect less of a gap between this review and the next one. And today we're going to be talking about a relatively new JRPG game called Brigandine, The Legend of Runersia, which was released worldwide last month on Nintendo Switch. And so far there has been no announcements or plans to release it on other consoles or on PC, so you're stuck with Switch for now. And it's actually a sequel to a game that came out 22 years ago on 1998 on PlayStation 1 called Brigandine, or as it was called in Americas, Brigandine, The Legend of Forsena. And I actually own the game. I bought it from a secondhand store which sold like porn DVDs and crappy games and crappy movie DVDs, and I thought like, damn, that cover looks kind of cool, I'm gonna buy this. And it ended up being like probably my top 6, top 5 favorite JRPG games on PlayStation 1, and I was very happy with this sequel, which by the way is not connected to the original game anyway, story-wise. These are like totally different universes, so to speak, but like gameplay-wise, it is very faithful to the original and the game design, how the aspects basically function around. And it is basically a mix of tactical, turn-based battles and grand strategy, so basically Fire Emblem meets Total War. And in terms of Fire Emblem, you have characters which you level up, and also monsters which you level up inside the game. And you have these hexagonal maps, and you have like these different spots and hexes on the map which give you a certain amount of plus accuracy and evasion, such as it does in Fire Emblem. And so in terms of the battle, it's very similar to Fire Emblem. And in terms of the grand strategy, you have this sort of a map which reminds me a lot of the Total War games, where you have these settlements which you have to take over. In order to win the game, you have to conquer the whole map. And you move your troops from one settlement to another to defend them, and also to move and like send them to quests. And you have this sort of a macro scale of strategy that you also have to play, which doesn't really take that much actually part of the game, because the AI inside the game, they don't really fight each other, and they rarely attack you unless you have a settlement that has no forces on it. They are not likely going to attack you, so you kind of get to conquer them on a very slow basis, so to speak. And I mean, you can like have 3 attacks per turn basically, and you get to conquer the land like relatively fast. I mean, I played my easy playthrough in 30 hours or so, so it's not really that long of a game, especially if you're going to be skipping some of the dialogues inside it. But then again, there's a lot of replay value also in the game, because there's 6 factions to choose from, and you can like play the games many over, and then you also get to have this sort of alternative mode once you play the game through once, which is sort of like all-star mode, which allows you to settle up your forces from all the factions, because all the factions have unique characters on them. So you kind of get to like do this sort of all-star lineup, basically 9 of your favorite characters and 1 faction leader basically. And in terms of the game, as I said, it is very snowbally. So once you, in the beginning, you're probably going to be struggling a bit, but if you tech really fast and roster up a couple of summons and then just like straightforward attack from positions where it's easy to conquer on like isolated location, like on a corner, it's gonna be really easy after you defeat like 1 or 2 factions, and then it's like really hard to win, really hard to lose the game after that, because the way you accumulate mana, which is the resource in the game, is by having multiple settlements, and you basically are going to be owning the most amount of settlements in the game very easily, and that's why you're going to be having so like easy full rosters inside the game, and you can just steamroll the enemies who don't have really most of the time, unless it's their main base, like a really full fleet to fight against. So basically you will be having a max hand of units, and they will have like, I don't know, 80% full hand. So in terms of like the gameplay, I really like the battles. It has also a fast speed function, which makes it a bit faster in case you get really tiresome on multiple attacks in one turn. And also you can like surrender the fights in case you want to flee or something like that. So there's also that like way to speeden up things. And as I said, it's only 13 hours of a game. I didn't really skip a lot of dialogue. If you're going to be playing on a bit harder difficulties, it's going to be taking a bit more a longer time. And also on easy, there's no turn limit. So in the normal and the hard mode, you have to complete the game instead of turns. So you have to play a bit more aggressive on them. The AI is also a bit better. It's not so passive, so to speak. And in terms of like the actual battles, I really enjoyed them. Leveling up your monsters and Rune Knights was an enjoyable process. And you can also send the Rune Knights into these quests, which give you items, which you can equip the monsters or the Rune Knights, or you can find monsters on those quests or new characters as well. And overall, like, it's a pretty great game. It's just kind of like, maybe I would have wished, like, the basic core gameplay is pretty simple once you get through it. It's very faithful to the original game, so old fans are definitely going to be appreciating it. But in terms of, like, playing the game through, like, another time, it's a bit mixed up, because unless you want to amp up the difficulty, the factions are not really that different from each other, because all of them share the same roster of monsters, and all the custom characters that you have are basically the same because they have the same abilities and skills. It's just that their portrait is the same, although the in-game model is kind of like this generic thing which a lot of characters share outside from the faction leaders, which I didn't like. I felt like they could have done more custom models for a lot of the lords inside the game. And a couple of factions do have some couple of unique Rune Knights that have, you know, a different skin and different class, which others are not able to access. But, I mean, yeah, in terms of, like, starting location and a bit of the faction lore and the characters, you're not going to be getting that different of an experience. One of the factions is going to be having, though, different type of an ending, which is called the Holy Gustava Empire. So basically, if you're going to be completing the game through with them, you're going to have a bit of a different ending, alternative ending to the game. In terms of, like, the story, I will not go too much into the spoilers, but it's kind of similar to the first game. Well, one king gets assassinated or dies, and then it's like full-on war in the continent, and that's pretty much it. Like, and then every faction is like saying, well, because of XYZ, we should be conquering the world and provide freedom, or, I don't know, ego, or pride for everybody, and everybody has like this own insignia that kind of like represents their motives. You have ego, you have freedom, glory, justice, and etc. I feel like the game is pretty good for its buck, so to speak, if you're going to be playing it for multiple times. There's a demo available on Nintendo Switch, so definitely try that out until you're going to be deciding whether you're going to be liking the game or not. And yes, there could have been more monsters inside the game. Not all of the old ones from the original game made it over. I don't know if they added actually new ones, because I can't remember. It's been such a long time since I played the original game. But I also kind of liked some of the elements that they added in. The combat, aside from being a bit tiresome and grindy because there's so many fights you have to go through, because there's not any type of auto-resolve type of a thing like you have in Total War. Otherwise, it would have been a kind of enjoyable game to play a bit more of. And I did start a new save inside the game. Also, once you complete the game, you get this sort of a side mode, which is called, like, I think it's called the challenge mode, which basically allows you to build up this sort of a roster of characters from all the factions. So it's kind of like an all-star lineup, but it has also like a time constraint to it, so you have to play it on like very aggressively, so to speak, and all characters start from level 1. But overall, I mean, Brigandine is a great game. I think I really love, in general, the whole Fire Emblem genre. I wish there was more games like them. And you have a lot of these hexagonal JRPGs, but some of them actually have like a separate moving phase and attacking phase, And that's a design that I absolutely hate. That's why I never could get into this series, which is a real shame because I really hate that game design. So I really like the Fire Emblem version where, you know, you move in the map and then you can attack on the same turn as you move. I think that's like the kind of core game mechanic that I really enjoy. And in terms of like the art style and the music was very redundant, I'm not gonna lie. All the factions have their own background music, which are kind of like remixes of the other. They sound kind of similar, and it got really redundant after a while because I don't know, like it felt like there was only like 5 or 6 tracks in the whole game and nothing else. So it like felt like very repetitive in that sense. The art style is very nice. The models could have been more detailed. In the original game, once the attack phases happened, the fights were in 3D, so this was a 3D segment, and otherwise it was all sprites. So they decided to remove all of this 3D aspect from the game altogether, which was probably a budget constraint, or maybe they wanted the game to run a bit more faster, which I really understand though. But I wish that maybe you know, some of the characters could have had custom models which at least look remotely as the characters they in the portraits. So yeah, some of the models, like, you know, you may have like a male looking model for a female character, and that just didn't really strike realistic to me, and you know, I didn't find it very immersive, so to speak. But it does have replayability. Sadly, just the faction difference is not really that much outside from the everybody's gonna have the same ending except the one faction, and their dialogues are gonna be a bit different, but like in terms of like most of the game core play is gonna be the same. Conquer the map, and that's pretty much it. And that's pretty much my review of the game. I don't really have anything else to add about it. I do recommend it for if you have a Switch. Maybe wait it in order to go to sale. If there's going to be a DLC for it, I'm probably going to buy it. And hopefully, if there's going to be some, I don't think there will be though, it's going to be like a more characters or perhaps like a bigger map. I don't think that's going to happen, but I wish the map would have been bigger and have like settlements which were not captured in the beginning, like rebels or something like that, like in Total War. And I think that the map could have been like having more resource elements there and more like the controlling aspects there on the map, like key pivotal points which give you certain benefits by having this capital under you would have been cool. But yeah, it was a bit lackluster in the strategy side in my opinion because it was so easy. But thanks for watching. I will see you guys on the next video. Make sure to like, hit that bell button, and subscribe.